The US president has spoken to Israel's Prime Minister about the landmark deal to halt Iran's controversial nuclear program. Barack Obama called it an historic agreement, but Benjamin Netanyahu condemned it as a historic mistake. Iran signed the deal in exchange for relief from some of the sanctions still imposed against it. This morning, cheering supporters welcomed Iran's negotiators home.
For those who doubted how much Iran needed a nuclear deal, these images of the foreign minister returning to Tehran say it all. What for some had seemed impossible had become reality.
No matter what interpretations are given, Iran's right to enrichment has been recognised in the text of the agreement. And for that reason, I announced to the Iranian nation that Iran's enrichment activity will continue as before.
Earlier in Geneva, they burned the midnight oil and then some, but they got there in the end, and relief was clear for all sides to see.
For the first time in nearly a decade, we have halted the progress of the Iranian nuclear program, and key parts of the program will be rolled back. Iran has committed to halting certain levels of enrichment and neutralizing part of its stockpiles.
Under the deal, Iran won't be allowed to enrich uranium to more than 5%, which is enough for power and medical use, but not enough to make a nuclear weapon. Any uranium it already has over 20% enriched will be destroyed or diluted. Equipment capable of enriching weapons-grade uranium will be switched off. In return, economic sanctions that have severely hit Iran's interests will be eased. That could give the economy a boost of $6 to $7 billion during the 6 months of the agreement. A matter of hours after leaving the negotiations in Geneva, John Kerry and William Hague were discussing Iran again, this time in London.
It's a good deal for the Middle East and for the world. It's a very important opportunity for the future, and I think it vindicates the policy of pressure through sanctions.
This could not have happened if the P5+1 had not been unified, if our friends had not come together to create sanctions, enforce the sanctions, and to press this agreement.
Not only keeping tabs on Iran's nuclear developments, but selling the deal and its consequences to a sceptical Israel. David Bowden, Sky News in central London.
And as we mentioned, the deal is sparking fear in Israel, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu describing the agreement as an historic mistake.
Storming into a weekly session of his cabinet, the Israeli Prime Minister delivered his verdict on the diplomatic breakthrough, first in Hebrew. And to avoid any misinterpretation, Benjamin Netanyahu then followed up in English.
What was concluded in Geneva last night is not a historic agreement. It's a historic mistake. It's not made the world a safer place. Like the agreement with North Korea in 2005, this agreement has made the world a much more dangerous place.
The US Secretary of State sought to reassure Israel that the world had not been tricked. Israel's fears are not unreasonable. They're driven by this man's pledge to wipe the Jewish state off the map. Israel and Iran have been accused of prosecuting a covert war against one another over the nuclear issue. Iranian terrorists have been blamed for attacks on Israelis in India, Indonesia, and several attempts elsewhere. An escalation of this secret conflict could destroy diplomatic advances. Global powers will now look to both sides to stop a shadow war that neither side admits waging. Sam Kiley, Sky News, Jerusalem.